There's wolves in white coats in our hospitals. Last week, HHS under Secretary Kennedy, with help from Dr. Mehmet Oz and Vice President J.D. Vance, published a report on the transitioning of children dubbed wolves in white coats, which is really what it is. And the report describes the appalling treatments given to otherwise healthy children by radical activists in white coats, hence the name wolves in white coats, going after the precious lambs that are our children. So the link to this will be in the description. Mastectomies for 12-year-old girls are a thing this report has exposed, even though people have known about this for a while. Puberty blockers, opposite sex hormones, and overall just the botched attempt to mold someone's body into that of the opposite gender. And detransitioners talk a lot about joint pains, nerve pains, endocrine issues, bone density loss, and less brain development, just to name a few of the really appalling adverse effects of all this. And if you just look at some of the numbers, you can put up a chart right there, and you see that Boston Children, this comes from Boston Children's, they diagnosed almost 110-year-olds with precocious puberty, which is often what happens in the prelude to a trans identification. I know a lot of these detransitioners myself. And Boston Children uses this diagnosis, the hospital at least, uses this diagnosis to prescribe puberty blockers and hormones and surgeries to children, sex-rejecting surgeries. And this other chart shows just how much money the government is paying in the state of Pennsylvania. We see how much reimbursements for puberty blockers in that Commonwealth of Pennsylvania have grown. And in the early 2010s, back when I was a little kid, it was pretty much nothing. And something happened around 2015 that caused the reimbursements from the government to completely skyrocket. And it turns out the show I Am Jazz started in 2015, and I highly doubt this is a coincidence. There's absolutely no way. And on top of all of this, Tavistock in Britain a few years ago came to the conclusion that over a third of their trans patients had quote-unquote moderate to severe autism. That doesn't even include mild cases like my own, the Aspies. So this means at least half of the people being subject to these irreversible treatments are on the autism spectrum. And this isn't just a fact. These are my peers. These are the people closest to me, the people that understand me the most. And that this is happening to them shatters my heart. Because I don't have a community now because of it. And on this, especially after everything else autistic children go through, which is really a major contributor to why so many autistics are being pushed to transition. It's because the special needs system breaks autistic kids. Then counselors and psychologists, after a single visit, mind you, tell kids like us that we struggle not because the system broke us, but because we're actually trans. And so it's really a pipeline of these radical activists pretending to be doctors. I don't consider them doctors. And Planned Parenthood, I call them Planned Genocide since that's how they're founded, is in on all of this as well. All it takes is one visit to get these people to convince a minor child that they're trans, especially one on the autism spectrum. They're going to take that quite literally. The schools are in on this, radical activists on social media, and they do this not for the well-being of the child, but for their own profit and power. They want money and they want voters. And your taxpayer dollars are being funneled towards it like you saw in Pennsylvania. And Colorado, my home state, is the worst example of this because now they're making us pay for every procedure in the book, including all the cosmetic ones. And it's all at the expense of the West's smartest yet most vulnerable children. Vulnerable autistic kids deserve to have doctors that'll tell them the truth, not a bunch of radical activists in white coats pushing them to transition. It doesn't take a PhD to know that you should do no harm. And until society has what we here at the AFN are trying to build, this is going to continue to be a problem. I've been your host, Sven Sharpen. That was today's episode of Sharpen the Narrative. Pray for our kids, pray for our country, and pray for our civilization. God bless you all. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.